Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Awesome Sunday Show. Connor here.
And Pat.
Pat, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm pretty hungry.
I just ate dinner, so sorry.
It's all right. I'll eat after this. But
Hope Solo's gooch.
Nope. Never in my life.
I wouldn't recommend Googling that.
No.
Or do it if you like to, torture yourself.
Yeah, or if you just want to be disgusted. So Patrick, but we're probably gonna meet up with people and eat anyway, so I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, besides for my torture of being hungry, some interesting news has been released, and I know you know about it, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, I've kind of wanted to talk about it, and it's about Nintendo. So we just got some news. Zelda Wii U is delayed again, but I'm not surprised. A lot of people were surprised, and for the reason being is because they announced...
It is a good reason, though.
It is a good reason, but it is and it isn't. We'll get into it. And also, NX is not going to be at E3, but they're going to talk about it at the end of the year, and it's going to be released March 2017.
Yeah, people
or
were expecting
supposedly.
it. Yeah, people were expecting it for the holiday season. I wasn't. I'm not surprised it was.
I'm glad
pushed
it's
back
not.
a little bit, and it makes sense because the Wii U is still young, even though it hasn't obviously met sales numbers. But it's better because it's fine. I mean, I wasn't gonna get it, but next year I'll probably be more likely to get it.
They wanted to avoid competition because it's a new console being released at times when they're probably going to be dropping the prices again on those consoles.
Yeah, and then a updated, PS4 and Xbox One, second
a slim,
a slim, or basically call it the PS4 and a half. You know how they did with PlayStation 2? You had that original big ass fucking block thing, and then they came out with the PS2 Slim.
The thing is, though, I like my design of my PS4.
No, I do too. It's probably not really going to be that different.
Yeah,
just a little bit. And Xbox did it with the 360. They had the original white versions, then they rolled out a new line, and then the Xbox 360 Elite or whatever.
Oh well, the Elite. You're talking about Xbox One. It's the Xbox One Elite, but then you're talking about 360.
Talking about 360.
Yeah, it's 360.
When they canceled the whites and then started
360S and then 360 something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I forget the code names, but I thought the best looking one was actually the third one. That one because it was really small and I don't know. I really a lot of people. This is kind of an unpopular opinion, but I actually like the design of the first Xbox One, X360, like the way it looked. It was cool. It was way different than anything out there.
It was really different.
Yeah. I know a lot. That's an unpopular opinion, and I think if a console like that was released today, it wouldn't fly.
No, because it's not sleek. Now, you look at the PS4 and you look at the Xbox One, they're very sleek designs.
Yeah, exactly. They're meant to fit your living room. It's meant to not stand out with all your furniture.
Right.
And everything.
Instead of
that's why they're black.
Like an eyesore. Yeah.
Right.
The black is the standard color now, but I mean PlayStation, with the exception, since PS2 has released black consoles.
Right.
Xbox, the original was that was an eyesore. That was an ugly console and controller design. But then that was a big, inconvenient block looking thing.
Yeah,
and
the console
the
itself
360 was
did not
still
look very
smaller,
good.
but had a really different design that made it not look too bad.
Well, I think the reason the design was like that is because it was the first console. I don't want to say it's the first. It was one of the first. The PS2 was actually probably the first one ever for it to stand on its side and also lay down as well. So, but the PS2 kind of did it better design-wise. I think the 360 was going for the same thing, but didn't want to look like the PlayStation 2.
Right.
So
you know what? I had more problems with the 360 when I had it stood up versus laying it flat.
Yeah, I never stood up my 360 ever.
I don't know why. It just was something like that, and then whatever. I preferred it flat anyway.
I still have the original Xbox 360 launch console. That's what I use for my 360.
I don't have the launch. I have the second release of it.
Yeah, I have. It's one of the first models out there. So I wonder how much it's worth.
Honestly, probably not that much.
Probably not that much.
But they just discontinued producing older 360s or the 360 altogether.
I think the 360 altogether,
which is surprising. But I guess it's not selling well overseas or anything. It's not like the PS2. Where it's still selling well overseas.
Yeah, or at least still has a continuing fan base.
Right.
Yeah, because high definition isn't everywhere, and like that type of technology.
And the
hasn't
PS2 was
evolved.
an awesome console.
It was.
Not knocking the 360. I loved my 360.
Yeah, 360s. I think probably like my second favorite console ever. Maybe third. I would that's actually a pretty good list for a future podcast. Is top 10
That
consoles.
is, yeah.
But okay. So anyway, going back to Nintendo. Because consoles are really fun to talk about, and I actually really enjoy like the technical specifications of consoles and like how they work off each other. Because to be honest, when it comes to tech specs, there's really not much of a difference when you get really close to them. Like the three, a lot of people think, oh, the 360 and the PS4 are very similar. They're actually pretty different in design when it comes to the internals, as far as like what's dedicated to what. But they obviously both blow Wii U out of the water.
Wii
even
U
though I love
wasn't
Wii
really
U.
an advancement.
Yeah, I love Wii U. I
honest.
do. It's a better console than it was PS3 or 360 when it comes to complete tech specs. Like the 360 had 512 megabytes of RAM. The PS3 had 512 megabytes of RAM, but 256 megabytes of that RAM was dedicated to gameplay, and the other was dedicated to the operating system. And the PS3 had like
an 80 or 9 year difference. That's why. It's
yeah.
better.
Well, exactly. That's why it's only better. And also, but the PS3 was really advanced, and it's had like a 6-core processor that was able to like really. That's why you would get games like Uncharted. It took developers forever for them to figure it out how to use it. But essentially, like PS3 was one of the few consoles left at that time to like run off the CPU and not really focus on the GPU. Which was like, that's why like back in the day when you look like the 16-bit or an 8-bit console, like that was running off the CPU. It was running by bits, not even bytes. Bits is like nothing. You don't even see bits and measurements anymore.
Yeah, no.
So like that's why like developers were so used, especially with PC gaming, like when like you get a really powerful GPU, it's much easier to develop for that. Not saying the CPU isn't anywhere near important as it is, but again, like, you know, looking at the Wii U and like the technical specifications of that, and then you look at PS4, which literally has 8 gigabytes of RAM and 7 dedicated to games, and then same amount for Xbox One, but 5 is dedicated to games and 3 is dedicated to the operating system, and that's why the online features work so well for the Xbox One over PS4. It's like,
Except for like Halo.
yeah, but I think that's more on the developer side, like 343 and like whoever's developing games. When I look at the Wii U and then, like, you know, I hear all these rumors about Codename NX, and like, listen, I love Nintendo a lot, and I love my Wii U, but it's been forever since I turned on my Wii U, except for like Smash Brothers when people come out, or people come to my house.
Yeah.
And
You're not like dying to play it.
I'm
or
not
go
dying
out
to
of
play
your
it
way.
anymore. Again, it's a little unique console. I'm glad I have it. It's definitely money worth spending. Even now, like, even though the new console is imminent and it's probably less than a year away, I would still totally suggest the Wii U. The library of games for it is awesome. It's some of the best games I've ever played.
Yeah, that's one of the best things it has. That's probably the best thing it has going for it. Is its library of games.
Library
And
of
then,
games is awesome. Donkey Kong Country
it's
Tropical
backwards
Freeze is great.
compatibility, right? To the Wii,
It's
not
backwards-
to GameCube, right?
No, not to GameCube. That's why I kept my
But they
Wii.
have ports, or the digital versions. Right?
Nope, there's no digital versions for GameCube on Wii U.
Oh, well, that sucks. But it's,
64 and DS, which that's why I bought WarioWare Touch for DS on my Wii U. Literally, that game is one of the best games ever. But I look at that Wii U, and then the NX is being launched in 2017, and I'm really curious about what that console is like, because no one really knows. There's patents out there. There's a controller that looks like an oval that I'm not really a huge fan of.
It's not even. It's mostly. It's like a screen.
It's mostly
just
a screen.
like 99% screen with like some buttons on it.
There's like 2
It's
analog
like if you were
sticks.
playing a game on your phone that has, you know, like the see-through, you know, clear, like,
Yes.
and joysticks on it that are touchscreen, except it's like that, except with raised, which I think it looks bad.
Yeah, I think,
Especially as an oval, I think an oval's not a good design for something.
I don't mind the design. I just don't like the. Well, okay, I dislike the design. I don't mind the oval design, but I don't like how the screen covers up the controller, because one, mobile games like that very rarely work ever, and two, I don't see, like, again, like, I'm not developers always complain about, you know, certain things that they're not able to do or they're forced to do when really all they want is just more power to do what they can do. And there's really, honestly, controllers are perfected. Controllers don't really need to be updated. They're fine.
Right. I think that starting with the second Xbox 360 controller, and obviously the PS3 controller was great because it was pretty much just the PS2 controller.
Yeah.
But even like the Xbox One controllers are awesome,
And the PS4
and the
controller
PS4
is awesome.
controllers are great too. But like there's really no better controllers. I think like you look at the Steam Machines controllers. I don't like it.
That controller's garbage.
It just looks like shit, and its functionality is messed up. Aside from just like the buttons like A, B, X, Y,
and
or
a
whatever.
lot of online reviewers have like said like the design it's a neat idea, but it just doesn't work
Right.
like as well as you would think it does.
It kind of just made to stand apart in some way, but I don't think
It almost
great.
looks backwards, and like I think the Xbox One controller is one of the best controllers I've ever held in my life.
Yeah, they're awesome.
So like controllers don't really need to be updated, and even the PS4 is kind of like as much as I love that controller, it's got the touchpad, so like it's got a little bit of like, hey, like we got something new, but again, that's not a huge deterrent from the controller. The controller's still awesome, and like an Infamous Second Son, I thought it was used to like pretty well.
Yeah, some games use it well.
Yeah.
Whether as a component, a map, or just another like pause screen. I think it works best as like a map, instant map. Because that usually was reserved for the select button. Mm-hmm. But it depends on how the game uses it, or like for inventory or something. I think
Right.
it works well.
I think it as long as it's not like a major feature, but it's implemented for like easy navigation when it comes to menus. I
Right.
think that's a total advantage of the PS4 touchpad. So like with the NX, I wonder what that console is going to be, because you can't like I almost feel like I would be disappointed if it was just as powerful as a PS4. And like again, that's good because PS4 is powerful, but like at the same time,
this
consoles
point,
are
they should make it
notoriously
better.
known to be out of date when it comes to technical specs after 6 months or a year. Like PS4 is outdated when it comes to everything on there. It is.
Pretty much, yeah.
But it doesn't need to be in date because it's meant for a specific function. Like people always like to say, like my PC has has got two NVIDIA GTX 980 Ti's on there, and like I'm running like a quad core Intel i7. That computer is probably one of the most powerful computers you can ever have. But okay, you're running The Witcher 3, which looks I don't want to say a lot better, but it looks better than it does on a PS4, but it still plays the same.
Yeah, it plays the same. Plus, there's for almost every PC game, there's mods to make it look better.
Exactly.
Anyway, so it's like you could have that powerful computer. If it's not really improving the gameplay, it's whatever, because you could just mod the appearance anyway.
Exactly. It's
granted, you need
it's not a fair
certain-
comparison.
Yeah, granted, you need like a certain level of like graphics card and processing to actually be able to mod it something well, and to have it run well without lagging due to a shit ton of mods.
Right.
But still,
And
think about it. How much money people are paying for that versus the PS4.
Exactly. Where the PS4, it's like it still looks great, and since everything in there is dedicated pretty much for running the game looks great anyway.
Yeah.
And you look at games like Uncharted 3 or Last of Us compared to the highest end games on PC, like Crysis 3 on a PC. There's really not much of a difference because the developers knowing the console, like knowing the tech the tech side of it, and like really getting into like how much they can get out of it. That's really how a console works. So I get why like it would cut costs to make the console affordable if they were to make it just as powerful as the current consoles, but like I would love to see like, hey, like look at this game up here. You can't play that on a PS4.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's Zelda.
Yeah,
And
at this point, it should be better.
it should be. And by 2017,
And that's Nintendo should make it better, because look at what happened to the Wii U.
exactly.
It wasn't any better.
It wasn't any better.
If anything, it was a little worse.
And it's 2017, and by March 2017, that's almost a year, 3.5 years of PS4, Xbox One being on. And again, consoles, the 5-year console life cycle, I think, is done. I think it's probably expanded to more like 8 years, but that's still 3.5 years, and you're not going to have the jump.
Right.
That's if they do that. We don't know. We don't know anything. And again, with going back to the patent of those controller designs, I'm not really sold on those of the actual controllers. A lot of people are saying this has got to be it. Like this is it. But like,
I don't think that's going to be
so
true,
you like a lot of people don't understand that like when it comes to patents, companies will have ideas, and if it's something that they think they evolve, they will patent it. There are so many different patents for PS4 controllers before we saw what we had. There was a patent for a PS4 controller that got released where the controllers can detach and they would work like Move controllers.
Yeah.
That never went on, but it was a patent. So stuff like that happens a lot. I'm not confident that's the controller. I think we're gonna get a dedicated decent controller. And the Wii U got one. The Wii U Pro controller is great. I'm not a huge fan of like the button layout, but like how the controller feels is really good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And then it has the touchpad, so it'll have something. It'll have like a Wii U Pro type controller, and then it'll probably have like a touchpad based thing or something similar like that, without that oval crap.
Yeah, I don't like that controller design, and I don't know. I feel like it's the only way it can succeed if it is a powerhouse. And I kind of miss looking back at like Nintendo consoles and being like, yeah, like that was way better tech wise than the other competition. And that's kind of what Super Nintendo did. Super Nintendo was released 2.5 years after the Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
And you could see how much better it was. I mean, yeah, third-party games like you watch, like Spider-Man: Maximum Carnage looks the same it does on Super Nintendo as it does on Sega Genesis. But then you look at games
that was a developer choice.
That was a developer choice because they said let's make this multi-platform so we get the market out there. There's 60 million consoles overall. Both these consoles, let's get it out there. Super Nintendo having 40 million and Sega Genesis having 20 million.
Super Nintendo was fucking awesome.
Super Nintendo is the greatest console ever made. PS1 is the second best. I guess 360 would be third in my book. But again, that's a future podcast. But where was I going with this? Oh yeah, but then you look at games like Star Fox and Super Mario World 2, and then you're like, there's no way that could run on a Sega Genesis.
Right.
It can't. And then like people are like, oh well, look at Vector Man. I'm like, dude, Vector Man sucks, and that game is. That game does not run as well as like those games, and there's not really much to it besides how Vector Man looks. Like Vector Man looks cool, but there's not really much to the gameplay, and it's not very expansive. Where Super Mario World 2, especially Super Mario World 2, the graphics in that game are exceptionally gorgeous, even to this day, just because of the art design, and also that game, the way that game flows and the way that game expands. I don't think you could fit that on a Sega Genesis. You could possibly, but like there would be some things cut. It would be like playing like Resident Evil 2 from PS1 going to 64. How like there's some noticeable cuts out of that. So it's like, dude, the NX is 3.5 years on the market, like after the PS4 and Xbox One release. It has to be more powerful. You can't be like. I almost feel like it would be more expensive for them to get the older hardware. But again, on that I don't know. That could just be that's just a guess, but
it's foolish. Really.
It's foolish. Yeah, it's come on, like
it would definitely be a turnoff for people buying that.
Cuz and I'm also disappointed about the non-E3 appearance. I understand there's probably things that aren't ready to show. And I respect the decision because I'd rather than not show anything at all than show something not good. Because you don't want another an E3 Wii U presentation, which was god awful.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was terrible. So I respect the decision, even though it is still disappointing. But maybe at Gamescom, is Gamescom the later thing, or maybe Tokyo Game Show, but Sony doesn't really go to TGS usually. Or they do. I think no, it's Microsoft that doesn't do TGS. Gamescom's another big show. But like the thing is though, I would love like Nintendo for like someone to be like, or I would love for Sony to be like, oh, like here's Killzone, or like here's Call of Duty, and look how great it looks on our console. And then Nintendo's like, hey, here's Metroid. Look how good this looks. And it's just like everyone's like, holy shit, you know. Not that I want them to blow the other systems out of the water. I think they're great, but like, dude, like I want Nintendo to have like a dog in the fight again. They have nothing. They really don't have anything. It's like, dude, I grew up playing those games. Like, that's the reason why I do play video games, is because of like the stuff that Nintendo did, and like pretty much how they other consoles owe a lot to Nintendo because they had to make themselves better. Now it's easy to make yourself better than Nintendo. I don't know.
Well, the good thing about like Nintendo kind of staying behind a little bit on the consoles is they're putting more effort into the games. in a
Yeah.
way. But still, you want both to be like top notch.
Yeah, exactly. You want it to be top notch, and not to mention the way Nintendo develops their games. They're one of the best developers out there. Like, not even like you can be a total Nintendo hater and like, dude, I hate their consoles. I think their consoles are garbage. More power to you. I don't agree with you at all, but hey, that's your opinion. There's one thing you can't dispute. As a developer, Nintendo's the best developer on the market. Like, it's like, or one of the best. They're up there with Naughty Dog, Bethesda, as far as like being able to turn out like excellent games and also unbroken games. I'll never forget, like,
They're no Ubisoft.
they're
thankfully.
yeah, exactly. Like when they said Smash Brothers is coming out in 2014, people were like, okay, and they did it. Smash Brothers came out in 2014, and I guarantee you, Zelda Wii U would have been a 2016 release. There was no way it was gonna be 2015. I knew that from the start, but even they were still kind of like, on the 2015. 2016, they were like, no, it's coming in 2016. I was like, okay, I believe them. Like, I think Zelda Wii U would have totally been a 2016 game if the Wii U was more
Releasing.
successful.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
would have said, Wii U is successful enough, keep this game on Wii U, it's fine. 2016. I think since Wii U is a failure of a console from the market standpoint, and then you look at NX, and it's like, all right, we have to have a reason for people to buy the NX.
Right.
I'm not surprised at the decision.
Yeah, and you know what? It's still smart because they're releasing it with the console, and they're doing a uniform release with the Wii U too. So it's going to come out on the NX. It's going to be one of their launch games, and then it's also going to be available for the Wii U at the same time.
Right, but also too, like, I'm obviously going to get it for NX. I'm gonna get NX at launch. I'm going to. There's no way I'm missing that. I always get Nintendo consoles at launch. I usually do get consoles at launch. I'm just that type of person. I don't have an Xbox One. I even said from the beginning with Xbox One, I didn't like their plan in the beginning. I think their plan is awesome now. I think Microsoft's
They're really
made-
making up for it.
Oh yeah, they made a huge comeback. I'm gonna wait for like a newer model to come out, and I'll get that with Gears 4 because Gears of War 4 looks incredible.
Yeah, it does.
I
I love the Gears franchise.
Same. I think that's one of the best franchises ever. Gears of War Judgment was a bit of a lackluster title, but it wasn't as bad as most people said it was. But Gears 1 through 3, awesome. Even though the final boss for Gears 2 really pissed me off. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought again. Oh yeah. Like, I get it with releasing Zelda on the NX along with it, but is the NX version going to look better? Because the Wii version of Twilight Princess didn't look any better than the GameCube version. And, like, granted, the Wii was about GameCube. It was only twice as powerful as the GameCube, and the developers didn't really have time to improve the graphics on it, which they definitely could have.
Yeah.
But like, I don't want Zelda again. If I'm going to buy Zelda Wii U for NX at launch, then I want it to look better than the Wii U version.
Right.
If it looks exactly the same, it's like, why? Well, then why? What's the incentive?
Why would you bother?
Yeah,
Yeah.
why would you bother? What these people who like the dedicated base for Wii U, the fans that have been there through thick and thin, pretty much defending your console when your console really does kind of suck overall, but your library is incredible. You have to say, like, hey, listen, like, Wii U fan base, like, listen, you're getting the Zelda Wii U we promised. I totally support that. But hey, like, people who are going to upgrade to the NX, this is what you get. And that's fine. And I understand there's going to be an opposing opinion. Well, it's like, well, hey, I waited for a proper Zelda game for it's going to be going on 5 years this November. That there wasn't that console Zelda dedicated that wasn't a remake. There was Zelda A Link Between Worlds, which was really good. Really good. That game was probably the best 3DS game, in my opinion. Overall, I have to think about it, but I think Zelda Link Between Worlds might be the best 3DS game. That's going to be kind of like a giant FU to everybody if it just looks exactly the same on both consoles.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
But get something a little more exciting news. What do you think would be the launch titles for NX?
Probably, or not probably, most definitely another Mario game, I would say.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. And, like
2013 was the last proper
with
one.
each of their releases, didn't a Mario title come with each release? Like even
There was always a launch one, except for GameCube. GameCube didn't have a launch Mario title. I
thought Sunshine was.
Luigi's Mansion. Sunshine came.
Oh,
the
yeah,
last,
okay.
Sunshine came a year later, if not later that year, that was released, and we didn't have a Mario release game unless it was Super Mario Brothers Wii. But I don't think that was it. I think GameCube and Wii were the non-Mario launch title platforms, and then Wii U did. Wii U had Super Mario Brothers U, which was awesome. That game was really good. But I would love like a 3D Mario, like a Mario Galaxy 3 or whatever it's going to be called, like as a launch title. Like, hey, like Zelda and Mario, plus a plethora of third-party games that are going to run better, if not the same, on PS4 and Xbox One. But it's like, hey, by the way, this console is more powerful. I would think it was really cool. Like Nintendo's very Apple when it comes to like releasing the technical specs. Someone actually has to like open up the console and make a YouTube video to show you what it is when it comes to the Apple products. For Nintendo, they're kind of the same way. They really don't release their hardware specs as they're not as bad as Apple. Like they will give you the tech specs officially, but they don't brag about it.
Right.
Like when Sony like talked about the PS4, they literally said there's 8 gigs of RAM in this system, and they point like Mark Cerny was on stage. He's like, there's never been a console with this much RAM. I think Nintendo should do the same thing if their console is more powerful. It's like, hey, for like all you people that actually like getting the latest technology, like this is what's better in this console over this console, and this is why it's going to run.
They should, especially after like the Wii U, like people's disappointment.
It'd be a giant 180. It would be like, whoa, like it would, and the people that criticize Nintendo for not having the best and greatest consoles out there, it would be kind of like their heads would turn. They would be like, whoa, this kind of, it
would impress people.
Yeah, exactly. It would be impressive. John Padalon, one of my best friends growing up, I know you met him a couple times. He doesn't hate Nintendo, but he's like, honestly, he's like, I'm not a Nintendo fan because for the most part, their consoles are not to what I want to play on because of how they run. And again, that's a fair reason. It's not he's not wrong at all. I would like but I would love for people like that to turn their heads and be like, whoa, like I should get back into this.
Yeah, I agree.
But again, I'm just kind of disappointed in
what if they announced a new Metroid title?
Yeah, see, like, and things need to be made up, especially for like what they're saying, because they're not going to talk about it at E3. So I guess E3 is just kind of Sony and Microsoft again, and they're not going to talk about later that year. So when they do announce it, it needs to be like a grand slam on all sides of the field, like kind of like how Sony did it.
Yeah, I agree.
Like Sony literally went out there and they're like, oh, by the way, what was it? What was the thing that got the most applause? Oh, about as far as like sharing your game. He goes, this is how, like, this is
that's so funny.
Yeah, like, this is how you share your game. And Shuhei Yoshida passes it over. I forget the guy's name. And he goes, thanks. And everyone was just like blown away. And there was no like DRM on the console. I'm sure it was a function that they thought of, but they just got rid of it.
Well, they probably got rid of it after they saw the backlash against
absolutely.
Microsoft for it.
Absolutely.
Deservedly so.
And also too, every console's been doing this, but like all the GPUs in the consoles run off AMD graphics cards, and I'm sick of it. I'm not a huge fan of AMD when it comes to NVIDIA. Their graphics their GPU, their graphics cards are insane. The Microsoft Surface Book, like the newest models, they have a dedicated NVIDIA GPU in there, and it's insane. There's people like running like Witcher 3 on like not ultra, but like on high specs on a Surface Book on a tablet. And NVIDIA's graphics cards are just the best on the market. They're better than AMD. And like the PS4, Xbox One, they use AMD GPUs. And I'm not a fan of that because they're just not as good. They're again, like people can retort and say, Oh, well, yeah, of course. Like an AMD Radeon R9 is the equivalent to like a GTX 960 or something like that. I can't. I don't remember exactly what it compares to, but someone can have that argument. But it's like, well, yeah, but overall, NVIDIA has the more powerful graphics cards, and like, not to mention, if Nintendo went on stage and said we're using NVIDIA, all the people that build PC games or build PCs for PC gaming are going to turn their heads again.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of AMD, to be honest. Their CPUs are nowhere near on the level as Intel. Essentially, like when people get AMD, they're kind of trying to cut costs, especially like when manufacturers are like, hey, this is like whenever a manufacturer tells you, oh, this is a gaming PC, you don't have to build it. They use AMD FX like 9000 or whatever, and they use the GPU as a Radeon R9. They cut costs to sell you something for the same price as if you were to build it with a NVIDIA graphics card.
Gotcha.
Which is annoying. So like, I'm tired. I don't want AMD in my Nintendo console. That's just that's more of a personal preference. I don't think that's going to happen though, because AMD sells their stuff for cheaper. And and especially when you sell consoles at a loss at first, you're going to be using AMD GPUs. It's just how it works. Like,
Okay.
That's just more of a personal gripe.
All right. I don't have anything to add to that 'cause I don't really know anything about that stuff.
Yeah, sorry.
But I mean, I know you do because you sell that shit at Best Buy, and
yeah.
but you know, if people can follow that and learn a little bit from that, that's fine. Yeah, if that's what you want, I take your word that it's better.
Yeah, I just
than
really want a powerful
hopefully they should
Nintendo
have been.
console. I was on the boat of like, gameplay over graphics when the Wii came out. I was such a Wii fanboy, and but as I get older and like I look back at the Wii and I'm like, dude, I love that console. Wii is definitely one of the greatest consoles ever, but it is kind of funny looking, like looking back. We all drank from the punch bowl.
Yeah.
We all did, and we all thought we were getting that Star Wars game that never came.
Oh man, there's still a chance.
There's still a chance.
It's not. It's like in development. How it's not dead yet.
Well, there was a Wii Star Wars game that was supposed to come out. That was you would use the Wii remote as a lightsaber.
Yeah.
But it was canceled. There's actually gameplay release of it. I think after Disney bought Star Wars, like a lot of stuff came out as far as like Star Wars games that were in development or coming out of development.
Yeah, some ones that looked really fucking awesome.
Yeah,
too.
like Star Wars. What was it? 1313 or something like that.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. That one's not officially dead yet. They might go back to work.
Yeah,
on
but it's
that.
not gonna be what it was like, dude. When they first showed that game, I was like, oh, this is like the Star Wars game I've always kind of wanted to play.
Right.
Like, it doesn't have to like always tie in with like major characters in the story. You can do your own thing, kind of like Knights of the Old Republic. That game was awesome,
Yeah, it was definitely.
but I don't know. That would be so cool if like NX had a Mario, Zelda, and Metroid launch.
Or new Star Fox.
Or a new Star Fox. They're not going to. And Star Fox, oh man, let's talk about Star Fox for a little bit. I haven't played Star Fox Zero yet, and I'm sure it is a good game. It's been getting decent reviews. I know IGN gave it like a 7.5, and it's actually sold not too bad, from what I understand. Don't quote me on it though. That's all kind of hearsay. But that franchise went downhill. Even like when you look at the development of Star Fox Zero and like you saw it when it first was released, and I'm like, dude, that game looks like it runs on GameCube and it's
Right.
on Wii U. And that's because Star Fox Zero started as a Wii development title and they carried it over to Wii U. But you see Star Fox on Super Nintendo, which still holds up to this day.
Oh, definitely.
And then there was Star Fox 2, which was canceled on Super Nintendo because they were focused on Nintendo 64. Star Fox 64, one of the greatest N64 games ever made.
Definitely.
Love that game. And I love when you first find out that secret of like when you get through all the hoops and then you follow Falco toward under the waterfall, and you go down the hard path. It's like that was like so awesome, and like just being able to fly like that. The combat in that game, flying still feels better than it did on the Star Wars Rogue Squadron games, in my opinion. Then there was Star Fox Adventures for GameCube, which was so-so, and then Star Fox Assault, which was so-so again. And then there was Star Fox Command on DS, which I wasn't a fan of. I know people like that game. Then Star Fox 64 DS, again, a remake. It's great, but it's not an original Star Fox game. And That game is just nowhere near as powerful and as popular as it should be, especially for how strong it started out. When you look at like Star Fox, when that came out on Super Nintendo, people were blown away. That was the franchise.
Yeah, it was awesome. And it's still extremely popular.
Yeah. I almost kind of wish I kind of would almost be like, I have such a backlog of games that like if Nintendo was like, hey, we're kind of done with this system for the year, I'd be like, okay. I really need to play a lot of games,
Yeah.
and I don't really need to worry. I don't need to worry about Nintendo games right now. Do your thing. 2017 is your year. Go for it.
Yeah, just focus on the NX.
If they canceled Star Fox Zero, but like not canceled it,
delayed it,
I'd be like, it's coming to NX. They want to make it look better. That's fine by me. That's fine. And it's not like Nintendo doesn't have the money. The NX could fail like Wii U did, and they would still not be.
Oh yeah, they could. What is it? They have. It's like something like 30 years of loss they can handle or something like that.
I forget the math of it. I think someone on like I saw it on Reddit. Like again, it's Reddit, but like a lot of people, and like this isn't just from like one person either. Like Nintendo sits on a bet of like $13 billion or something like that.
Yeah, they have a lot of cash.
They have a lot of cash. They could fail the NX and still come out with another console 5 years after that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they would do that. I think NX kind of rides on whether they go third party or not.
Right.
I think it's kind of like their last shot, almost. I don't know. I have really nothing else to say besides I'm hopeful, but I'm not. My hopes aren't too high for NX.
Mm-hmm.
I really want it to be good, but I'm not. If I get disappointed, I'm not going to be crushed about it.
Okay, I understand. I wanted to bring this up yesterday on Nerdist, Nerdist News. They brought up, I think it was yesterday, this idea that they have hands in the gaming industry, so they get a little bit more information than like what gets released. They got sources that they can't name and whatever, and they were looking over what they know about NX so far, and then like what some sources are saying it is. And one idea they came up with, what if they're going to release a new system, but what if it's like the NX isn't the new system, it's like a upgraded Wii U, but what the NX is the software that allows for you to play it concurrently. You can use like the 3DS as a controller, you can use the gamepad as a controller, and you can play your games that you get for your system, pick it right up on your 3DS on the go.
I think that's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
It would, if the Wii U is powerful and successful, I would say that's something new. Let's see how it works. But they need a new console. You can't have something called the Wii U anymore. Like out there. That's already a terrible name. No, it's not a bad observation. And it's definitely I don't think it's true, but
But say it was a new console and the software they developed for it gave you the capabilities to do that, would that be something you would be interested in? Like being able...
It's still on the Wii U.
Purchase... No. It's say the NX is a new console. It's definitely a new console. But the way that the software is built on it, you purchase a game on the NX digitally, and you can pick it up. You can play it on the NX all you want, and then take your 3DS somewhere, and you could pick right up on that.
Yeah.
It's like its own... cross-platform.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a 3DS though. I would want it to be something like new,
or a new DS or whatever, something like that.
Right. That's what a lot of people say. It's a home and travel console as far as like it's a hybrid.
Yeah,
I think that's really cool. I like that idea a lot. Sony tapped into it, but like with the PS Vita, but you need good Wi-Fi connection.
Mm-hmm. And the PS Vita itself wasn't that great anyway.
No, I haven't turned on my PS Vita in a year. I probably should just sell it. Like I kind of just have it just to have. Mm-hmm. It hurts my hands when I hold it, and like a lot of people love that console, and there are great games. Killzone Mercenary is a lot of fun, but like I honestly just played it just to play Marvel vs. Capcom 3 on the go. Like that's really why I have it.
And like going off that idea, you could play it on your 3DS or whatever. If they come out with a new DS-based handheld, what if? In order to do that, I mean, they'll still say they still do physical releases, but in order to get that,
the push digital,
like its own cross-platform type of thing, they had to charge more, how much more would you be willing to pay to do that if you could have that feature? And doesn't have to be. It could be for like any sort of franchise, whether they do it across any release or their own games.
Yeah,
I should say.
So
not
you're saying
games.
it would be more expensive for a game to be bought digitally, but it can be used
but you
anywhere.
can use it on this console and that.
I wouldn't pay more for that because I feel like if you're gonna, you might as well just raise the price of all the games because game development costs so much money already that a lot of developers didn't survive when the HD consoles were released. THQ, Midway, I don't even know.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. Like a lot of companies like fell under because of HD development. So like, I think prices for games should just be raised overall. But I think they should be. It's either raised if you're going to keep doing physical releases, raise the price of the games. That's fine. But then you should release the games digitally for less.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they should. I wouldn't pay more for a game just so I can use it on the go. If you're gonna have a console dedicated to portable and home entertainment, then the game should cost the same, but as same as the other games that are being released around it. Because I know 360 in the beginning was like, oh, by the way, like certain games will cost $50, then certain $60, but then they're all like, you know what, they're all just $60 because they had to raise the price of the games because of how much development cost.
Yeah.
Remember PS2 games were $50 when they were first released. Mm-hmm. So I think it's either raise the price of the games overall or make them cheaper digitally. I wouldn't pay more for a game to have more features because we already do that today.
Okay, but let me bring up an example. You own the new Super Smash Brothers. You have it for Wii U and you have it for 3DS.
Okay.
So technically, you bought it twice.
Yes, I did.
What if you had
Happily.
the option, to pay a little bit more on that one purchase so you can use it on both instead of buying two different things? Like, are there certain games like, say, Smash Brothers? Would that be one instance that you'd be willing to pay a little bit more to have something like that instead of buying
because even though I bought the game twice, there's still two different games. There's different levels, there's different options, there's different features in both games. And you also don't need one without you don't need both. You can have one without the other and still have the same game. So I still wouldn't pay more because you're already developing a game for a console that has that capability, and you're telling me I have to pay more in order to use that feature. Whereas it's still the same game no matter where I play it. Mm-hmm. It's if Super Smash Brothers for 3DS and Wii U were both the exact same game with the same graphics and the same, it still has the same 60 frames per second, which is amazing. I don't know how they did that. And while trophies run at 30 frames per second, blows my mind that they were able to do that. But if it was literally the same exact game and I had to pay more to use a feature, I'm not doing that. I wouldn't do it.
Even if it was like, say, $10 more?
Yep. I don't think that's... Like, I shouldn't say I wouldn't do it. I probably would for certain games like Smash Brothers. I wouldn't be happy doing it, though, because Smash Brothers for 3DS and Wii U, very similar, are still different games. I don't want to pay more for a game to have a feature that I feel like I already have by investing in a console that I just bought. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's fair to the gamer. Otherwise, raise the price of the games overall, so that way you can properly develop the games at a loss. I would gladly pay extra for a game, so that way a developer that I like can keep creating the content that they created create content that continually entertains me. Because I understand, because games are actually cheaper than they've ever been. Back in the day when games were on cartridges, adjusted for inflation. But even though stuff is adjusted for inflation, I have old comic books from the 80s and early 90s that have advertisements for Sega Genesis games retailing at $79.99.
True. Well, like that's like when the PS2 launched. It was like over $600 or something like that.
PS3.
It was PS3 that was like that.
Yeah, but that was kind of a different scenario. There was a Blu-ray player. Even though like people were pissed off and people still complain about that price tag, that console was immensely innovative when it comes to technical specs, as far as like the processor, which is like the 6-core CPU, games running off that, and like having still being the cheapest Blu-ray player on the market, but one of the best. I'm not a huge critic on that price tag.
Right.
I think it's still stupid though, because no one would buy it because people do not buy game consoles at that price. But I understand the Sony side of it saying, well, we can't be at that much of a loss of it.
Right.
Because they still sold PS3 at launch at a loss.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's really I don't think so. I think Sony gets way too much smack for that, to be honest. But yeah, I don't
Okay, if you're willing to pay more for a game, like you said, for consistent quality content and entertainment, what would be the most you would pay?
70.
70.
I would
So, like,
go an
another
extra
$10.
I would go an extra $10. I like if developers were honest and they said, listen, especially even Nintendo too, if they're like, listen, like the games you buy and you want from us are costing way more than they ever have been, and we're not getting that money, as much money back as we should, to make you more games. That's why we need to raise the price to $10 extra. And if they legitimately came out and said, like, listen, you used to pay this X amount of dollars for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 that retailed at $79.99. We're asking for $69.99 for a game that has like a game like Fallout 5. I would say, yeah, I think that's totally fair, and that's a totally justified reason. And if overall across the board, if games have to be raised that much so that I can get those features, so that way developers have the money to give me that, more power to them. I'll totally do it.
Okay.
That's fine. I think that's a completely legitimate reason. But if they raise the price $10 and I still get the same
Don't
shit,
do anything with it.
yeah, I still getting the same shit that doesn't work that comes out today, then that's when I get angry. Because listen, I get it. Like game development is not easy, and if you hear stories about game developers getting divorced over the amount of work they put in because people like us bitch about it.
Right.
I get it. It's not an easy job, but also you also promised me but also when you release something in retail, you're promising it works. You can't go, oops, sorry.
Especially several games in a row, like
yes.
Ubisoft.
It's not an excuse. I'm not, and like I think that's a shameful thing, because when you release something at retail, you're essentially saying, hey, sucker, you bought a game and we're gonna fix it later.
Yeah, with updates that are bigger than the initial game itself.
Yep, it's a promise, because like when they say this game will only take up a certain amount of your hard drive, which is something you have to be concerned about these days.
Yeah, because now just like downloading a regular game, installing it on your hard drive, it can be anywhere from 25 to about 55 gigabytes, I think.
Yep.
Is the biggest one I have. Plus the updates, they add up to.
Yeah.
That's why I had to upgrade my PS4 hard drive. Because both my brothers and I play different games, and we get, different games each. So, at least you have the hard drive. It's pretty much just you and your dad, and I feel like you get more games than your dad does.
I do.
But like it still adds up a lot.
It still does add up.
That's why the Xbox Ones now sell in terabytes.
Yeah, they sell them in terabyte and 1 terabyte. The Xbox One Elite console has a hybrid hard drive, and you notice the speed of that console.
Yeah.
The whole operating system and the way your games run, Microsoft says it's 20% faster, and I think they're right. I don't think that's an exaggerated number. I think that's true, because when you watch videos and like you see gameplay, and like when you see games load, and not even just games but your applications load, the hybrid hard drive. If you don't know what a hybrid hard drive is, it's essentially a fusion of an SSD hard drive, which is solid state, and an RPM hard drive, which means revolutions per minute. And most hard drives usually spin at around 5,400 revolutions per minute. 5,400 revolutions per minute. So that means every minute the disk in that hard drive spins 5,400 times, which gives you the speed of how your applications load. And what the memory does, which is the random access memory, the more you have, it gives it that little extra boost to push it up. But when you have an SSD hard drive, solid state, there's no moving parts in it. It also lasts longer. It's more reliable, and everything loads around 4 times faster than an RPM hard drive. So when you get a hybrid hard drive, you get the storage of an RPM, but the speed of an SSD. It's not exactly to the same capacity as an SSD when it comes to speed, but there's a huge difference.
Right.
And you see it in the Xbox One. So I really hope the consoles that are coming around sooner rather than later start doing hybrid and SSDs. There's videos on YouTube of people installing SSDs into their PS4, and they run really fast and application wise. The games
Yeah.
still run the same, but everything loads up faster.
Right.
That's another thing I hope NX has. I hope NX gets rid of the optical drive. Get rid of it. I don't want the disk drive. And if they start and SSD cards hold up to 128 gigabytes. You can fit a game on there. Mm-hmm. And if they started releasing games like that, like kind of almost taking a step back to cartridge, because that was the one thing about cartridge that was awesome. There was no load times because it was dedicated hardware. So like imagine if NX had an SSD plus almost like an equivalent to an SD card for a game reader, how fast everything would be on that. Mm-hmm. That's insane. Because like that's another thing I have a problem too with my PS4 is like I'll boot up Street Fighter V, which has almost no content to it, and it takes forever for it to load up. It's insane. Pisses me off. Sorry. What are we talking about?
That's all right. Developers, we were talking about like they're releasing incomplete games or broken games.
Yeah.
One thing that I definitely think needs to change is I think EA is probably the biggest offender of this. Ubisoft is really bad with it too. And I should overlook Ubisoft all the time, but that's deservingly so. Ubisoft is like a fuck you to the gamers type of developer. But EA did this and it pissed off a shit ton of people, myself included, with the newest Battlefront.
Yep.
They released a game, and as soon as they announced the game, they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have, we already have the fucking DLC announced, ready for $50 or $60 or whatever." That's 2 games right there that they withheld. That's another game's worth of content that they withheld from the release, just so they can charge people another $60 for more features.
Exactly. And it's the wording of that gets me angry, because if they came out and said, this game costs this amount of dollars to make, and we're not going to make that by releasing this amount to you, I would say, all right, that's a reasonable excuse. But like the way they did it, it makes them look like penny pinchers.
Yeah, they purposely withheld content just so they can charge. Not to mention the cost of that DLC is crazy.
Yeah,
and from what I've seen,
it's a $50 season pass.
Yeah, it's really not that much. Because like if you, I don't know, have you played the new Battlefront? Did you?
I refused to play it because of how much it costs to play.
All right, my brother bought it. I told him not to because it's bare bones. There's like nothing to it.
Yeah.
And it's like they sold us half a game.
That's how I felt about Street Fighter V. Yeah. I bought the season pass for that. I paid $80 for that game that I don't play anymore.
There are some season passes that are worth it. Absolutely. In my opinion, every Bethesda game's DLC has been amazingly worth it.
The Mario Kart 8 season pass was $14.99, and you got an extra 6 characters, an extra 16 courses, and extra skins and vehicles for $15.
Yeah, see, that's great.
That's amazing.
Like at least for PS4, because I don't have Wii or anything, so I can't really say for their season pass prices. But like the cheapest season pass I've seen on PS4 was like $19. The most expensive one is the EA $55 season pass. Usually they're about like $25, which isn't bad. Like for Dying Light, I think it was like $20 or something. But you got another game mode, you got more locations, you got like a mini expansion, and then you got like skins and stuff all with it. Bethesda, for every game they always release, their DLC is worth it because it's new. It's almost like really they with each thing. There's an exception with Fallout 4, but I'll get into what the exception is. But like with Skyrim and Fallout 3, with Fallout 3 especially and New Vegas, they basically released added on like 4 to 8 hours worth of new content on top of what they released, which is like 300 to 400 hours worth. And it's new. It's always new story mode, new areas. 4 to 8 hour. Like Fallout 3, each expansion they made was at least 4 to 8 hours worth of new content. Yeah, which is awesome, and that was like $25. For Fallout 4, the exception so far has been like they released their first DLC so far was a couple hours worth of content. It was like a additional story, an add-on to the story. The second one was a new customization kit. Because Fallout 4 has a lot of customization. Because they added a creation system, a crafting system, and then you can build your own towns and settlements and stuff. So they gave you more tools for that and new features in that. And if you want to buy that alone, it's like $4 or something. And then they're releasing an expansion that's going to get like another 12 or so hours worth of content. And the thing I really appreciate Bethesda doing with that is they're releasing basically like another component to the game. If you buy the DLC itself, because of how much content it is just for that new chapter that's coming out, it's like $25.
Yeah.
The initial season pass was like $25 itself. So what they did was they're like, hey, listen, they made an announcement. In 2 months, we have to raise the price of the season pass because of how large this newest expansion is going to be.
Yeah.
And, first of all, they didn't have to tell anybody they were raising the season pass.
Yeah, they said it because it was their incentive.
They're like, hey, listen, we're not trying to fuck you over, but like this new expansion's like really huge. So, it's costing us a lot more money, so we have to raise it. And they told you, they're like, if you want to buy each thing individually, it's this, this, and this. And they're fairly priced. And so they only bumped it up, like the season pass, like $15 or $20 or something, which isn't that bad. And if you already bought the season pass, you don't have to pay any more. Like I got a season pass combo with the game. It's basically like the gold edition. Like I paid $80 it cost me total. And I didn't have to pay any more to use that season pass, which is great. And the thing with developers like that, like Bethesda, Naughty Dog, Ubisoft does it on some games. Square Enix, too, is a good one. The way they do their DLC is like they worked on it, probably during the development or along with it. And they're like, okay, we don't have time to fit this into the main game, like into the main story, what we want to do. So we're going to take some more time to finish it. And then, if we finish it, then we'll release it. Or like at the end, somebody will have this idea and they're like, oh, this is great. We should work on this. Won't fit for release date. Let's just do it as DLC. If they do it like that, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely willing to do that. If it's additional content that's worth it, that's not taking away from the game, like make it incomplete, then absolutely I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
100%.
Like the price isn't what bothers me, it's the messaging behind it.
Yeah, it's like how they're going about it. If you're purposely taking shit out of the game, the full version that you're releasing, and only just specifically to make it DLC, that pisses me off a lot.
Yep.
And I think that's really unfair to the gamers, to their consumers.
Yeah, and that's what I hope Nintendo doesn't fall down that trope as far as when it comes to the NX. Like, so far, they've been awesome with DLC. Smash Brothers, I don't think was as cool as Mario Kart 8, but I think probably the reason why that being is because Mario Kart 8 was such a good deal. I don't know. I don't think the revenue was as high as they wanted it to be. So, but also too, Smash Brothers, I didn't mind paying $4.99 for a character because I got it for two separate games. And it came with the stage, and the character was awesome. So it's fine. I hope Nintendo doesn't fall down that trope. Like, I guess to kind of like that was an awesome point you just had as far as when it comes to DLC. And like, Nintendo's been really good with their DLC. They haven't really pushed it on some of their first party games. Their third party games don't have DLC because it's not supported. Call of Duty Black Ops 2, I have that for Wii U because I still play zombies on it sometimes. There's no DLC for that game.
Well, buying it for Wii U is kind of dumb anyway. Like it
was a launch game for Wii U.
Okay, still.
Yeah, and that's before like Wii U had all these issues. So
yeah, well, it's still those are the type of games like if you have a PS4, you buy it for PS4.
Yeah, absolutely. But see, I want NX to be like. Yeah,
you want it to have.
Yeah, you're regardless. Like, hey, you should buy this on NX.
Yeah,
NX is such a cool name, and I feel like the name that they.
It's not going to be the name.
It's not going to be, but like, I want like it's there, like, and that goes for that's like every other console. It's like the code name is so cool.
Like the Wii was supposed to be the Revolution or something.
That was the coolest name ever.
It's the Wii.
And granted, Wii is a much better marketing name at the time because you don't have to translate. You don't have to translate Revolution to Zimbabwe.
Like, you don't have to translated to a whole bunch of
Yeah.
different languages. It's
Like-
just Wii across the board.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's kind of why like I feel like Xbox One is such a stupid name. Xbox, like they should have just called it Xbox.
First of all, Xbox One is stupid because it's the third Xbox,
yes,
which is ridiculous.
I get the name behind it. It's because it's the one entertainment thing you need, and you're
it's ridiculous.
It's still stupid. PlayStation, even though PlayStation is an English name and it may not translate well to other countries, but the fact that it's numerical when it comes to the order makes it easy to understand. It's PlayStation 4. It's more than PS. It's the other one. It's the one after PS3. It's easy to market and it's easy to sell. It's like the fact that people know what's newer. When I work at Best Buy, people come to buy video games there all the time. Is Wii U different from Wii? I get that question all the time. Is Xbox One before the 360 or is 360 after? That might sound stupid to people, but people who don't play video games don't know that. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but they're buying it for someone else, which, in all honesty, with the gaming console, most of the time, it's parents buying it for their teenager or kid. Like,
Yeah.
we're just giant children. Granted, video games, that's kind of a stigma. People do buy their own dedicated consoles for themselves, but yeah, half your market is for kids that parents are buying for them.
Right.
So, like, yeah, I don't know. I guess just to finish off, we've been talking about this for an hour. Unless you have something else to say.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. I want NX to be successful. I want Xbox and PlayStation to be successful. I think they're awesome. But, like, I'm just tired of Nintendo not being cool anymore. Like, I want it to be rad. Like Nintendo in the 80s and 90s, especially in the 90s with 64, even though Nintendo 64 didn't sell nearly as much as PlayStation, it was still a rad console.
Yeah.
And GameCube was the most successful failure I ever saw in my life. GameCube was technically a failure. It only sold 20 million. But
I'm proud to be one of those 20 million.
oh yeah, exactly.
Dude, I loved
And
my GameCube.
no one shits on GameCube.
It's so great.
It's so good. And people crap on Wii because it's funny looking. And now looking back, yeah, there's some stupid things about it. But dude, Wii was awesome. Wii was not those first 4 years was not a fad. Like it was a force to be reckoned with. And it was the idea behind it. But like Nintendo lost its cool factor. It's not cool anymore. And like I want that back. I want Nintendo to be like, I want people to look at that like, yo, that's pretty cool what you have. People look at my Wii U and they're like, oh wow, you actually have a Wii U. I'm like, yeah.
It's kind of how it is. Yeah,
It is how it is. Like, dude, I think whatchamacallit? Phil was here for the first time the other day, and he didn't know what that was. He didn't know what it was. So whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, I want the NX to give me a reason to buy another console.
Yeah, like that's what marketing is. It's like, hey, this is why you want us. This is why you want to give us your money.
Uh-huh.
And like Nintendo hasn't done that in a while, and the 3DS is starting to lose that steam too. But
Yeah, I really don't care about buying a 3DS. I know you and Anthony D'Elia have said, it's worth it. Like there's some great games for it.
yes,
There is, but I'm not like
Delia's the only other friend I know that owns a Wii U besides Damien.
mm-hmm.
Damien
sucks.
Damien, Chris,
Just
but
kidding,
they're both
Damien.
twins, and Delia. That's it. Everyone else I know owns an Xbox One or PS4.
Evan has 2DS
PS4.
maybe. No, Evan has a handheld,
He has he has a 2DS.
but still, he only bought it for Pokemon.
Which you should, if you're gonna invest in something, get a 2DS. It's $100. It's worth
Yeah,
it.
and you can get all the 3DS games.
Exactly,
which is great.
And I actually like the way the 2DS looks. I feel like it fits in your hand better because like sometimes my hands cramp at the 3DS. Although the new Nintendo 3DS XL is awesome, but I like just to finish off, if I want you to answer this too, or actually here I'll ask you first. What do you want the NX to be? As far as like how it looks, and you can go into as much detail or vagueness as you want. Like, what exactly do you want from the NX? Like, what do you want it to look like or how it to run?
I think you covered how it should run. I agree with how it is. It should be better than the PS4 and the Xbox One. It should have better specs. Should run better. The design of the system itself really doesn't matter too much to me because I don't mind the design of the Wii or the Wii U.
Yeah, I
they're
actually
small,
like the way the Wii
compact,
U's designed.
Still sleek. and that's fine. They fit, as long as it could fit next to my PS4 without being completely, huge and clunky or whatever, it's fine. I don't really want like the Wii U gamepad unless it's going to serve more of a purpose than the current one does. Like, I know there are some games that you use it heavily, but unless like it's going to be, really heavily used, I don't give a shit about it.
Yep.
If they want to make it like a separate controller to buy, that's fine. I don't really care if it comes with it or not. I would rather have like a Wii U Pro controller come with it.
Yes.
And if I'm going to get it, I want a new Mario. The Zelda games, I haven't really played too much. I've played a couple here and there, but
I love Zelda.
I know they're great games, but like Mario games definitely need it. If they're going to get third-party games, they have to run better on that than on my PS4 to give me a reason to buy it. And like they have to get that DLC over to it, over those features that, like how you said for Black Ops 2, that you're missing something.
Yeah, DLC needs, even though DLC sucks in a lot of ways, overall DLC is a blessing.
Yeah.
It gives you a reason to go back and play games. Nintendo needs to have that for its third parties, good or bad, because that's not really on them, that's on the developer. And they themselves need, like, even though they've done it pretty good so far, they need to perfect DLC for their games.
And I want that game library, and I want it to expand more.
Yep.
Like with GameCube and N64 games on it too.
Yeah.
Because
the Virtual Console, I think
their current game library, like their digital content, is pretty great.
Yes.
And I want it to be better, and I want it to like make Sony and Xbox, although they're both kind of improving on it, to be like, all right, people want this really bad, let's start doing it, and let's do it like Nintendo does it.
Yep.
Nintendo needs to lead the pack in order for
and
Sony and Microsoft to get better.
And every time Nintendo leads the pack, it like everybody starts shaking a little bit. Like, remember when everyone tried to copy the Wii?
Yeah.
And also too, like every controller you see now is essentially an evolution of the Super Nintendo controller.
More or less.
Yeah, like the four, like a lot of people look at like the four buttons on like the four face buttons on a controller, and they're like, "Oh, that's always been like that." It hasn't. You look at every console before
the NES had two.
Yeah, and like, or it was a giant joystick with a button on the side. Controllers sucked back then.
Well, at the same time, you didn't need them. You didn't need those extra buttons
for
those games, but as games evolved, you needed them.
But imagine being a developer and you're used to a directional pad and two buttons, and then like Nintendo comes, it's like, hey, we want you to make games for this system. There's a directional pad and 6 buttons. That's why games like Street Fighter took off, and like fighting games wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for the Super Nintendo controller. The Sega Genesis had to catch up when they mapped out 6 buttons on there. The Sega Genesis was originally launched with 3 buttons.
Yeah.
For face buttons. Sorry. And then after Super Nintendo, that's when like games like Mortal Kombat started becoming popular, and Street Fighter. They eventually added 3 more buttons.
I didn't like the design of that controller.
What?
I didn't like the design of that controller.
Didn't bother me. Actually, for fighting games, I preferred the 6 buttons on the Sega Genesis than the shoulder buttons on the Super Nintendo. But overall, the Super Nintendo controller was better because of the vast library of games that took advantage of it.
Uh-huh.
But I guess just to finish off, I mean, I can't really add to like what I've already kind of said before, what I wanted the console, but just to reiterate, I would like either a hybrid or SSD hard drive. And I really don't want an optical drive. I almost want like a card reader so the games read faster.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything is pretty much measured by megabytes per second transfer speed, or gigabytes per second, maybe, depending if we ever get to that stage, which we probably will. I would want like a NVIDIA graphics card in there, like have like an amazing GPU. And yeah, I mean, like that's really, and I guess just like from what you said when it comes to the video games, I don't want that stupid oval controller that was.
No, that controller is ugly.
I really doubt that's going to be it.
Yeah,
I doubt that's going to be it. I think that's just an idea patent, which happens all the time. But yeah, I guess that's it. We can end it here. We got it. This is honestly, I didn't think we were going to talk this long about this.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing that that's why I let you take the lead on it. Otherwise, it probably wouldn't have gone.
Oh yeah,
too long.
Sorry if I know I say certain things about this stuff that most people might not understand, but you can understand it because I learned it, so you can understand it. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the Awesome Sunday Show on YouTube, Podbean, or iTunes. Also follow us on Twitter. The Awesome Sunday Show Twitter handle is @AwesomeSunShow. It was supposed to be Awesome Sunday Show, but Twitter is also really generous with their characters. But if you want to follow us personally on Twitter, I am @LessThanConnor.
I'm @RickPatMick.
Yep. And also, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think, what you think the NX should be, what you want. And also, if you totally hate us, let us know too. But we're probably going to hate you back.
Yeah,
well,
I guess.
I know Pat will.
Oh, yeah. I hate everybody, as it is, apparently. I know one person who's going to comment on the NX, and that's going to be Anthony D'Elia.
Oh, yeah.
And I know he's going to have something good to say about it because you two are the biggest Nintendo fans I've ever met in my life.
Yeah. I think he's a little more so when it comes to the RPG element of it. Because I know he plays Fire. I think I shouldn't say I know. I'm pretty sure he's into Fire Emblem. But I think in the more adventure-y ones he's more. But I'm more into the platforming, like the Donkey Kongs and the Marios. Zelda is our common ground because Zelda's a mix between adventure and exploring and RPG. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You guys have an awesome not Sunday because it's not Sunday but this show's been released. But be tuned for our actual Awesome Sunday show.
All right. See ya.
Peace.